I'm sure I'm not the only one who saw the ending of chapter 264 and is wondering what's going on, but it seems to be something extremely interesting, of course, as Gege likes to leave everything regarding Yuji hidden for as possibly long as he can. I'm sure 265 is going to end with a cliffhanger on the effect of the domain. Anyway, I'm just playing. In this video, I'll be analyzing a good amount of the series, Yuji and Sukuna's characters as a whole in order to make an educated guess as to what Yuji's domain expansion can actually contain, or even if it's truly a domain expansion. This is important as a domain expansion is a manifestation of yourself, so it'll help us understand Yuji better. I'll cut the intro short here as I value both the time of you and I, and with that said, if you enjoy content such as this, don't forget to leave the boy a like and subscribe as that'll help me out big time. With that said, let's get into it. So after Yuji and Sukuna would fight for a bit, we see Yuji finally activate his domain expansion, and the scene would instantly cut to Yuji and Sukuna at the train station. Yuji prompting Sukuna to come on as the chapter concludes. So first, I do believe that the effect of the domain is probably non-lethal short hit. As it activated instantly, this trait is consistent with characters such as Hakari and Higuruma. With that in mind, we could say that there is a chance that this is possibly a third curse technique of Yuji's, but with all things considered, Yuji having 3 curse techniques, I don't know. It's not impossible, but it would be a bit much for a final arc in my opinion for him to get all 3 of these techniques now. I personally think bro is strong enough as is. However, if this is to have a chance at saving Megami, then a third curse technique linked to Yuji's domain could be plausible and consistent with all we know of the story and Yuji's character. Getting that out the way, I very much believe that this trump card Yuji has pulled out will have something to do with souls, spirituality, things of that nature. Throughout the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, there are many story elements that suggest that Yuji and Sukuna have a conflict like no other. Firstly, they are forced to share a body while being polar opposites. Yuji is one who walks his life with the belief that he must protect and save others if possible. Yuji values this belief so much that there are many times he's planned out his actions with the intention of throwing his life away if that meant everything would be okay for everyone else. Sukuna couldn't be further from this than possible. A hedonist, mass murderer, monster, you can't go lower than Sukuna. His only purpose is to experience pleasure in the way he sees fit until the end of his time. His drive for pleasure leading him to a path where he could potentially destroy the entire world, simply for the sake of himself and nothing else. The two have a slight obsession with one another, although apparently more recent for Sukuna. It can be argued earlier with how he specifically targets Yuji for pretty much all of his insults. I say this because Yuji and Sukuna have both openly vowed to destroy one another and have basically questioned and reinforced their own ideologies and goals due to the existence and progress of the other. I promise this analysis will lead up to the domain expansion, but just bear with me. When it comes to Yuji, there's one of his greatest moments in 214 that has him question Sukuna as to why he can't just be a normal person and always feels the need to make everybody miserable. Sukuna responds with basically saying, "The weak do not deserve to enjoy good lives or even live. Such a thing only belongs to those who have become strong." Interestingly enough, Yuji in the middle of Sukuna's response comes to the conclusion that Sukuna's a lost cause and he needs to kill him ASAP. It's important to notice that Yuji did not even wait for Sukuna's full answer before saying, "Yeah, why did I even try?" Sukuna, on the other hand, is forced to question his own ideals as he witnesses the progress that Yuji has made throughout the entire series. Someone who stands against every one of his ideals has become one of the most powerful people in the world, and he can't rationalize his truth by saying maybe Yuji isn't as selfless as I think, or he's followed in my footsteps a bit in the past month to reach this level. Because Sukuna knows through his soul being intertwined with Yuji's when they share the body, that Yuji means every single thing that comes out of his mouth. I think that's the specific purpose of Sukuna revealing that detail about their souls being intertwined, so Gege could force Sukuna to 100% acknowledge that, yeah, maybe his philosophy may not be as perfect as he once believed. Sukuna then goes into this tirade about how he's going to, before anything else, shred Yuji into bits and pieces and shatter his will, and then he'll go on to destroy the world and finish his master plan, but Yuji needs to suffer first. I also want to point out the moment with Sukuna revealing he always knew that Yuji was the child of Jinny Todori, who is the host of the other half of his soul. I point this out because, like Uraume, he must be aware that they have the same potential. I assume so judging by how Sukuna questions if Yuji intends to climb up to his level in the same chapter of this reveal. I say that because in retrospect, Sukuna knowing that both him and Yuji have the same potential and then seeing that Yuji's able to climb up to his level holding the opposite beliefs that he does, can kind of invalidate his own beliefs and philosophy, because it proves that Sukuna is not absolute in where he stands with the world. Maybe Sukuna and his twin were just born physically special and nothing else to it. If this is the case, Yuji could probably make Sukuna come to the realization of, yeah, maybe there is love and I just wasted my whole 1,000 years of life Jujutsu maxing. This leads me into what I, and apparently not too many, but a good amount of other people believe the domain expansion can eventually lead up to. Sukuna has represented a devil-like figure throughout the entirety of the series. He cannot act on his own, requiring the bodies of others or to make deals in order to push his own agenda. A cannibalist, a hedonist, an arsonist. He might even beat Chris McClane in a crime for crime. But you get my point, he's horrible. If Yuji is to resemble the opposite of him, or someone that is here to put him down one way or another, he'd be a Buddha, savior-like figure. I'm being vague here, as I like to play safe with religion, but you get what I'm getting at. Sukuna's domain expansion is the Malevolent Shrine, a domain with the effect to mercilessly carve up all within it and set it ablaze. This technique is activated by Sukuna casting the mudra of Enmaten, the king of hell, and the bodhisattva who judges the souls of those who have died and sends them to the afterlife they deserve. If one is caught in this domain expansion, they will absolutely die. There is no surviving the Malevolent Shrine. The shrine contained in this domain expansion represents levels of hell in Buddhism, and to get to the point, Sukuna's domain expansion reflects himself. Yuji's domain is unnamed as of now, but from what we can see is a train station, one that funnily enough contains Yuji and Sukuna in their most pure forms, the forms that they take when they would be seen in Sukuna's inner domain earlier in the series. Yuji as himself without the claws, and Sukuna in his Yuji-kuna look that we love and miss. I do think Sukuna's appearance here is linked to how he would look if he never consumed his brother, basically the most pure version of himself. They're also at the station of transport, waiting for the respective vehicle of the station to arrive, very similar to where Gojo was placed right before he would pass on to the afterlife. I point this out to say that I think something very similar to Gojo's passing may be happening within Yuji's domain. Will it be exactly like it? Of course not. Sukuna's a horrible being who is not getting a happy ending, but knowing what we know of the soul, Yuji's proficiency with anything soul-based, and the parallel to Gojo's passing not being there for no reason, he might actually end up quote-unquote saving Sukuna, but in a way that puts Sukuna down rather than literally redeeming him. There are many theories about this chapter out now, but one shared to me on Reddit had to be displayed as it is a masterclass, and it kinda reinforces what I'm getting at. Now before I get into this, I usually ask before using, but I'm permanently IP banned on Reddit, and the theory, more so analysis cause it's that good, originally comes from 4chan anyway, but it was found and shared on Reddit, so I'm just gonna use it. Thanks to YamiDes1403 for finding this and sharing it, and now I'm gonna share it to you guys while simplifying it just a bit. Yuji's domain expansion mudra is one connected to a deity that has not yet achieved Buddha status, but is still an enlightened being. This deity is Kshitigarbha. This specific bodhisattva referenced in Yuji's mudra is an enlightened being who vows to empty all empty hells to save the sinners before achieving his own enlightenment to become a Buddha. He is also a guardian of children and children who have passed away early, sometimes even before being born. This references Jin's original existence, doomed to be eaten by Sukuna before he was born. This also references Yuji himself, who ate all of his death-painting moon brothers to gain blood manipulation. Last and most important, all of the major characters in the Sukuna raid have contributed massively to Yuji landing his domain expansion at this point of the battle. This detail of the arc directly correlates with Yuji representing Kshitigarbha in his vow of not achieving Buddhahood until all hells are emptied and he has saved every sinner. Kshitigarbha has 6 envoys under his command to save sinners of 6 different realms. This theory goes on to place Sukuna to be a great sinner who must go through all 6 envoys, each correlating to 6 divine realms in order to be saved. First is the Yama envoy. This is Gojo, the honored one. Yama, being the ruler of hell, can be considered to be an honored one of his realm. As Gojo and Sukuna contest one another to earn the title of the strongest, Gojo fits this description. Second is the treasure holding lad. The man who fits this description is obviously Higuruma, as Higuruma stole Sukuna's treasure, Kamutoke. Third, Great Strength Envoy, represented by Maki for obvious reasons. Fourth, Great Compassionate Goddess, represented by Yuta Okkotsu, who speaks of love all the time, and as a domain expansion, that manifests how much he truly values love into the real world. 5th, Precious Treasure Goddess, represented by Kusakabe. This envoy serves to defend the human realm, and with Kusakabe being able to buy time for the team with nothing but simple domain, this technique that allows even the most helpless of humans to combat demons beyond their abilities. He's very fitting of this description, and to reinforce this part of the theory myself, Kusakabe does not fight at his full strength until he has something to protect. When fighting against Sukuna, who is the great sinner who threatens humanity, Kusakabe accepts that he is briefly the last line of defense of humanity before fighting with his heart and soul and completing the task, giving all of our fighters a second chance. The 6th and final envoy is the Summoning Heaven envoy, represented by Angel in her Jacob's Ladder technique. This theory concludes with the statement that only once Sukuna goes through these trials and tribulations, Yuji can exorcise him and save Megumi. This analysis is too good to be called a theory. It blew my mind, and again, shout out to YamiDes1403 for sharing it. Really appreciate it. Anyways, this theory also leads me to believe that this domain expansion here is something that allows Yuji to delve into Sukuna's soul in order to directly strike it and exorcise him from there. Basically, the theory everybody had a long time ago of Yuji and Sukuna taking place within Sukuna's inner domain, but instead in Yuji's domain. As this is a non-lethal domain expansion, I'm certain the effect will entail changing their power level in a way that levels out the playing field, since despite Yuji becoming way more powerful, he's still no match for Sukuna. I personally believe that they'll be leveled out by their willpower, their soul, their spirits, something of that nature, as suffering in spirituality is something he mocks Yuji for throughout almost the whole series, and he says to Yuji directly that suffering is a fate that Yuji deserves for being weak, and nobody has a stronger ability to move forward despite their suffering than Yuji. I think it'd be quite poetic. I highly doubt a talk no jutsu's coming for those who believe it, let's be serious, and with that said, share your thoughts down below. If there's anything you can add to the video or just want to share, please do so. I love reading your theories, funny comments, or whatever down below. And with that said, I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and peace out, guys.